Hi everyone, Bear from Bear Reads Books here with a book tag today. One of Shawn's. Aren't they all Shawn's really? This book tag is called the Alphabet Soup Tag. It is brought to you today by the letter A. There are other ones in the alphabet. This is the first one I've done, so I thought I'd start with the beginning of the alphabet. And this has been on my list to do for a while, so plenty of other people have done this one. So I'll link Shawn's down below. Original video down below, but if there's any others that you like, by all means just go find them. Okay, so here we go. A is for author. And a good book by an author whose first name or last name starts with the letter A. First names are too easy, so bonus points for a surname, double bonus points for first and last name. I couldn't find a first and last name, so one of my favourite Australian books. So quite an old one called Tirra by the River. Strange title, Tirra by the River. The author is Jessica Anderson. I don't have any of these books to hand with me today. They are all spread far and wide across the house, in the garage, in boxes and in bookcases. So I haven't gone to the trouble of finding any of them. So you will see them up here. Tirra by the River by Jessica Anderson is a beautiful book. I studied this book in university many years ago, came back and read it after university. Sometimes these things you read in universities are just a fluke, so you want to try them again. It is wonderful. A small book, Australian, and typically Australian without being kitschy bush tales, and yeah, it's a really nice story. Number 2, A is for, well, A, the last book you read with the article or one-letter word A in the title. I've put a couple down. I've said a Rightful Place by Noel Pearson, which I've mentioned very recently, and because I mentioned it so recently, I went and found the one before that. So, A Rightful Place by Noel Pearson, which has been in the previous video to this one, or maybe the one before that. The second one is A Superior Spectre by Angela Meyer, which received some really good reviews all over the place. Unfortunately, it wasn't mine. It wasn't a book I hated, it just wasn't a book I loved and was enthralled by like so many others. I think for me it was a 3-star read. That was A Superior Spectre by Angela Meyer. A is for Angry. This is number 3. A is for Angry, a book that pissed me off. Yeah, hard to say why, but I put Circe by Madeline Miller on the list, and it may have had something to do with the amount of hype this thing received and the amount of accolades this thing received, and then I read it and thought, meh, it just didn't do it for me at all, and I really wanted it to, and I think the ending really, it was such a slow burn, and the ending kind of just was a little uptake, but not much, and I really needed it to tick along more and to have to do more with with the story that it had. So it did make me a little angry. Number 4, A is for Awesome, a top read of recent years, and I'm going to say The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. This is why what's it called? What's the new one called? The something boys. I can't remember. The Nickel Boys. That's why The Nickel Boys is such an anticipated book of mine, because Colson Whitehead's The Underground Railroad, for me, was one of my standout reads for the last few years. It really is a fantastic book. A is for Aaah, a book whose title includes at least 3 A's. Bonus for more than 3, and I have a ripper. Here is a Haruki Murakami book called Colorless Tsukuru Tazaki and His Years of Pilgrimage. Colorless Tsukuru Tazaki. I can't even say it now. I've read this book. Colorless Tsukuru Tazaki and His Years of Pilgrimage. And if I add up the A's, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 A's. Bonus point. So, number 6, A is for Annoying, a character that drove me up the wall. Hate to harp on it, but Daisy Jones of Daisy Jones and the Six. I still get comments on that Daisy Joan rant video that tells me how awful I am because I didn't like the book, or I didn't like the character of Daisy Jones. And that's okay. That's absolutely fine that you have a different opinion to me. It was just a character that I found horrible, and the world just seems to love her. But anyway, Daisy Jones. A is for, this is number 7, A is for Ambivalent, a book I'm still not sure how I feel about it. And I've put 2 by the same author. As I read them, they moved me very much. I read both of this author's books pretty close together, within a few months. And it's Max Porter. And I read Lanny first, and I think I talked about it in one of my review videos. Seriously, loved it. Fantastic. But it was something I just kept thinking about. Right up to the point that I even went and read the book before Lanny, which is called Grief is the One with Feathers, which is like an allegory on grief, where grief is a crow that sits on your bed or sits on your shoulder or visits you everywhere you go. Frightening book. Like Lanny, truly made me think so deeply about what I'd read, and I still think about them. And it's not that ambivalent is not the right word. So I feel as I just don't know what to think about them because I'm still thinking about them. That's not ambivalence, because there's no negativity there. They're both fantastic books. I just still think about them to this day. 8. A is for Anticipation, a book that I am much looking forward to reading. So, a book that I'm much looking forward to reading. I have put a new release on here. Where did I put it? Oh, there we go. So this one I think is coming out March 2020, and I am a sucker for historical fiction, like vast, voluminous historical fiction, Aaah of the style of Ken Follett, and also Edward Rutherford. And Edward Rutherford has been promising a book about China, just called China, for about the last 2 or 3 years, and the publication date keeps getting pushed and pushed and pushed. It's been excruciating. I want to read this book, and at the moment the release date is set for March 2020. They may change it again. I hope they don't, but that's what I am anticipating. Edward Rutherford's China. 9 is A is for Actually, a book I didn't expect to like, but I did. And both of these, and I chose 2 again, both of these are from my October reads, so Victober and Gone with the Book. So one was Mrs. Dalloway. It's just not the type of book I normally like, and then when I read it, I fell in love with this woman, Mrs. Dalloway, and I fell in love with her friends that she hates, and I really enjoyed it. Thoroughly enjoyed Mrs. Dalloway. And then the other one I enjoyed in October was Under the Greenwood Tree by Thomas Hardy. And I hate Thomas Hardy, and I hate Victorian literature, and I did this Victober because everyone else was doing it. But then every Victorian book I picked up was fantastic. And I hate myself for hating Victorian literature. So now I'm going to read more Victorian literature. But Thomas Hardy's Under the Greenwood Tree was great. What are we up to? 10. 10 is Affected. Character, book or writer you feel is pretentious. All of the above, character, book and writer, is Donna Tartt. If you're author of The Goldfinch, The Secret History, My Little Friend. But I love her work. She is one of my favourite authors. But I've read interviews with Donna Tartt. She's friends with other writers like, what's his name? Can't remember. Bret Easton Ellis. She's friends with, in the same circles, writer circles as Bret Easton Ellis and others. So I think she comes across as pretentious, and her books are very technical. They're very engaging. They're fantastic stories, but they're very dense and technical novels, and I think there's a degree of pretentiousness about that in when you try and marry that story and that complexity and that author. I think there's some pretentiousness there. A is for 11. A is for how's it going, A? A book you like by a Canadian writer or one you want to read. And that would be, and I've always been a fan of this Canadian writer, is Robertson Davies. It's probably another one that you would call affected or pretentious. But I love him. I love the big beard. Look at me. Look, I love the big beard and the weird hats and the tweed jackets, and that was Robertson Davies all over. And he wrote trilogies of these vast family histories, the Deptford trilogy and the Cornish trilogy. And I can't even pick, to this day, I can't pick a favourite book. I've read all of his books, and I couldn't tell you a favourite. I just love every single one. I love his style. I love everything about it. They're fantastic. And he's a Canadian writer, so there you go, Shawn. Robertson Davies. Number 12. A is for Anticlimactic, a book I thought fizzled out at the end. It happens quite a bit, but I think Anticlimactic was American War from a couple of years ago. American War by Omar El Akkad. It was a near-future dystopian novel, and I really enjoyed what they were trying to do, and I did this little hand movement thing before, and it was really good. There was lots of fights and confrontations, like the normal structure of a book, and then it just went and then just flatlined at the end. It didn't tie. It's not that I need things to be tied in bows, but they tripped over their own shoelaces really in the end. It wasn't that they didn't tie things in nice bows, they just fell flat on their face, which is different. And 13 is for A, all the booktubers, tag a swagger people, and I will do that. I'll tag, and really, whoever hasn't done this tag should. It was a great fun, and it's not a huge lengthy video. Hopefully you enjoyed that. I certainly did. There's a whole bunch of these coming out now with different letters. I think there's an E and an N. I'm going to try and do those over the next couple of weeks and put those up too. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Enjoy the rest of your day, week, month, wherever you may be, and I will see you soon. Thanks. Bye.